There are memories that don't belong to this life. You feel them not in your mind, but in your body. A sudden fear that has no origin. A longing for something you've never known. A love for places you've never visited. Skills that feel inherited, but from no one in your family. And above all, a feeling, persistent, quiet, deep, that you've been here before. Most people brush it off. They label it déjà vu, or imagination, or genetic inheritance. But what if the explanation isn't just psychological, or even biological? What if it's vibrational? What if your DNA holds echoes not only of your ancestors, but of you, before this face, this name, this timeline? What if a version of you, a deeper, more original self, left breadcrumbs behind? And your DNA is where they landed? We tend to think of DNA as a hard-coded instruction manual. The double helix, the genetic script, the biology that makes your eyes this color, your hair that texture, your body what it is. But what if we've misunderstood it? What if DNA isn't just a physical structure, but a memory field? A multidimensional interface. A coil that stores not only protein instructions, but experience across space, across time, across selves. You've probably felt it. The moment where you suddenly know something you couldn't possibly know. When a piece of music moves you to tears, and you don't understand why. When you meet someone, and it feels like a reunion. When your life shifts, not by decision, but by remembrance. That isn't coincidence. That's resonance. Because memory doesn't only live in the brain. Memory lives in the field. And DNA, according to more and more studies in quantum biology, is not just reactive. It's responsive. And beyond that, it might be reflective. Reflective of everything your soul has been. Not just in this lineage, but beyond this incarnation. Let's go deeper. The field of epigenetics, the science that studies how environment and experience affect genetic expression, has already broken the idea that DNA is fixed. We now know that stress, joy, trauma, emotion, even belief can switch genes on or off. And those changes can be passed on. But what if that's just the beginning? What if these patterns, passed through generations, include not only inherited traits, but spiritual impressions, feelings, memories, contracts, unfinished stories? What if in every cell of your body, you carry not only the story of your bloodline, but the signal of a consciousness that existed before the womb, before the family, before the name? And what if that signal is still there, waiting, echoing, whispering? This is why some people feel like they were born remembering. It's why children sometimes speak of past lives they've never heard about. It's why certain people have an unshakable sense of destiny, of déjà vu, of soul calling, even in the absence of clear direction. It's not ego, it's imprint. Something older is vibrating beneath the surface of their cells. And your DNA is trying to show you. It might do it through physical symptoms, strange sensitivities, emotional flashbacks, or energetic shifts. It might do it through patterns. You keep meeting the same kind of people, facing the same internal battles, attracting the same challenges. It might do it through gifts, art that flows through you, healing abilities that make no sense, a deep connection with nature or music or silence. These are not random. They are residues, echoes from a consciousness that predates this life, but chose this life to remember. You didn't come here to learn who you are. You came here to remember who you were, and who you still are beneath the programs and roles. And your DNA is your portal, because long before you had language, your cells were already vibrating. Before your first breath, they were already listening. Before your first thought, they were already carrying a signal, a message from your pre-birth self to the version of you living now. And the message is simple: I'm still here. This might sound poetic, but it's not. It's vibrational science. We know that cells respond to intention. We know that DNA emits light, biophotons, and that those photons carry information. We know that every emotion you feel changes your chemistry, and that chemistry changes the way your genes behave. So what if the deepest version of you, the soul version, embedded a frequency in your genetic field, one that could only be activated later, when the time was right? That time may be now, because something is happening across the world. People are remembering, not intellectually, but cellularly. They're waking up with strange dreams, intuitive downloads, energy surges, unexplained shifts in perception. They're being pulled inward, called home, but not to a place, to a state. And if this story is touching something in you, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is right now, because this is not just a video. It's a frequency, and your DNA might be responding right now. What if your DNA is not just a biological archive, but a mirror? A mirror not of your past in this life, but of your essence before birth. Not a static snapshot of your parents' genes, but a living interface between soul and form. A vibrational structure that remembers who you were before you forgot. Mainstream biology teaches us that DNA determines physical traits, height, eye color, predispositions to disease. But modern physics, especially quantum biology, is peeling back the curtain to reveal a deeper function. DNA is sensitive. It listens. It responds to the field around it and to the consciousness within. Russian scientists like Peter Garyaev discovered that DNA acts like a liquid crystal antenna, not just transmitting, but receiving information. They found that DNA responds to language, sound, and intention, that its structure can be altered through resonance, not metaphorically, literally. So what happens when the signal isn't coming from your environment, but from you before you were born? The ancients knew something we forgot. They didn't separate biology from soul. They saw the body as a vehicle, not of fate, but of memory. Temples were tuned to sacred frequencies. Mantras weren't rituals, they were technologies used to vibrate the field of the body back into alignment with a cosmic self. And now, science is finally catching up. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research, for example, shows how elevated emotional states, like gratitude or love, can affect genetic expression in real time. Other studies in epigenetics show that deep trauma, even unprocessed in childhood, can alter gene expression, and those changes can echo for generations. But there's a question few dare to ask. If trauma can be inherited, can soul memory be too? Can love that began before birth still be carried in the coil of your DNA? Can wisdom, intuition, knowledge from other lifetimes remain dormant until something, a frequency, a moment, unlocks it? What if that something is already happening? Have you noticed the shift? The sudden attraction to ancient knowledge, the spontaneous urge to meditate, the feeling that your body wants to release things you never consciously experienced, the intuition that you're not learning, you're remembering. That's not random. That's resonance. Because your DNA doesn't just store the past. It stores possibility. It holds the instructions for who you are, but also for who you were before you entered this form. And those instructions? They're vibrational. They don't speak in words, they speak in symptoms. Sometimes, the awakening begins with discomfort. Your body resists food you used to crave. Your relationships feel misaligned. You feel tired, not because you're weak, but because you're upgrading. Because your DNA is responding to something you haven't yet understood. And then, something cracks open. A dream that feels more real than waking life. A knowing you can't explain. A download of clarity that cuts through years of confusion in a single moment. And the strange, undeniable sense that you've been here before. You're not going backwards. You're looping inward. Back to the center of the spiral. To the original you. The version that existed before trauma. Before culture. Before forgetting. And your DNA, like a tuning fork, begins to vibrate with that frequency. Not as a metaphor. As a physical, measurable change. It might show up in how you breathe. In how you speak. In how you feel emotions in your chest, not your head. In how your choices begin to align with something deeper than logic. Because you're not becoming someone new. You're collapsing into someone older. Wiser. Quieter. More real. This is why awakening doesn't always look bright at first. Because the false layers must fall. The unaligned habits must crumble. The noise must quiet, painfully sometimes, so the original signal can come through. And that signal isn't outside you. It's inside your blood. Inside your bones. Inside your field. You've carried it since before time. And your DNA has been holding the shape, waiting for you to feel it again. You don't need a ceremony. You don't need a guru. You don't even need to understand it all. You just need to listen. To the quiet. To the body. To the vibration underneath the thoughts. Because somewhere in that stillness, the pre-birth you is still speaking, still remembering, still vibrating. And the more you attune to it, the more the false identities fall away. And what remains isn't a mystery. It's you. As you were. As you are. As you were always meant to be. There's a reason you feel like you're waking up from something. It's not because you're broken. Not because you're lost. It's because something deeper than memory is stirring. A signal that was never fully gone, only buried. Buried under roles. Under expectation. Under the trance of survival. But now it's rising. Not as a thought. As a frequency. And it's calling you to reclaim something that was yours before you were born. You didn't come into this world empty. You arrived with a blueprint, not just in your genes, but in your field. That field carried the weight of other lifetimes, the residue of other choices, and the wisdom of a soul that has seen more than one sky. And your DNA, that sacred spiral inside every cell, was encoded not just with your ancestors' biology, but with your essence. An essence too big to be contained in a single lifetime. Science is beginning to echo what ancient mystics always knew, that your genes are not fixed, that your consciousness affects biology, that your thoughts, your feelings, your intentions reshape your physical expression. But what if it goes further? What if your DNA is not only changeable, but programmable from other versions of yourself? Versions that existed before this incarnation. Versions that already lived through other timelines. Versions that didn't forget. And now, those versions are reaching through the veil, not to show you something new, but to remind you of something ancient. That reminder doesn't come in words. It comes in moments. You're sitting still, and your heart suddenly aches. You hear a sound, and it floods your system with emotion. You see a face, and feel grief or love or memory that doesn't belong to now. These aren't psychological errors. They're vibrational activations, signals from the deeper self, the pre-birth self, the version of you that chose this incarnation, not to suffer but to remember. And the remembering is physical. This is why your body reacts first. You cry without understanding why. You lose interest in old goals. You crave nature, silence, solitude. You begin to feel, not just think. And in that feeling, your DNA shifts. Because your DNA is listening, not to language, to resonance. And when the signal becomes strong enough, when your soul becomes still enough, something opens. You begin to dream in symbols. You start remembering things that never happened in this life. You lose interest in performance and move toward presence. You let go of the need to be understood and find peace in simply being aligned. This is not regression. This is return. Return to the version of you that existed before. The one who remembers why you came. The one who placed this version of you like a seed in the soil of time, trusting it would someday awaken. That someday is now. The world around you will try to distract you. It will offer dopamine instead of meaning, performance instead of presence, status instead of sovereignty. But your DNA knows the truth. It's encoded into your body. And once you remember the signal, nothing external can silence it again. This is why healing isn't just about fixing trauma. It's about reclaiming frequency. It's about removing the static so the original signal, the one from before birth, can vibrate freely again. That signal doesn't want you to become something. It wants you to remember something. Who you were before the world told you who to be. Who you are beneath the patterns and the programming. And who you will always be, even after this life ends. A coherent field of memory, frequency, and presence. This is not philosophy. This is structure. It's why you feel the pull when you meditate. Why certain sounds or languages stir something ancient in your chest. Why silence sometimes feels like coming home. You're not imagining it. You're remembering it. Your DNA isn't just a biological artifact. It's a spiritual map, a holographic code storing not only your past, but your origin. And once that code begins to unlock, through feeling, through presence, through stillness, your life begins to shift. Not because you're adding something new, but because you're peeling back what isn't true. And what remains is not just human. It's eternal. So if you've been feeling the tremors lately, if your dreams have intensified, if you're craving something you can't name, it's not confusion. It's alignment. The signal is rising, and it's coming from you. The you that was here before your name, before your face, before the forgetting. And now it's time to remember. Some truths don't arrive as thoughts. They emerge as silence. A silence that doesn't feel empty, it feels full. Full of knowing, full of memory, full of a presence that was never truly lost, only waiting for you to become still enough to feel it again. You were never just this life, never just this body, never just this version of you shaped by environment, family, culture, time. You are a field, a consciousness stretched across layers of memory, a thread of vibration moving through lifetimes, bodies, names, faces, but never forgetting. Your DNA is not an accident. It is an archive. Yes, it holds the genetic blueprint of your ancestors, the physical stories, the emotional imprints, the traumas and gifts passed down through blood. But deeper still, hidden beneath that biological narrative, there is something far more ancient, a signal that belongs to you alone. The version of you that existed before this incarnation, before the ego, before the forgetting, before language, a version that chose this life not as a punishment, but as a place of remembering, to feel again, to reawaken, to vibrate the soul into the body fully. And that process has already begun. You're not imagining the shifts. You're not going crazy. You're being recalibrated, cell by cell, thought by thought, breath by breath. This is why the path doesn't make sense to your mind, because it was never mapped for logic. It was designed for resonance. And as you shed the identities that were never truly yours, the roles, the masks, the inherited pain, you start to recognize a feeling that's been quietly waiting beneath it all. Home. Not a place. Not a belief. Not a dogma. But a frequency. One that lives inside your DNA, in the silence between thoughts, in the stillness beneath emotion, in the heartbeat that's always been yours, but also older than you. You've walked many timelines. You've carried many names. You've learned through fire, through loss, through joy, through forgetting. And now the spiral brings you here. Not to start over, but to complete, to integrate, to remember, to stand as one who has walked through lifetimes and returned whole. This is why the world feels heavier now, because your field is becoming lighter, because you're outgrowing the density of what you once accepted, because your system is remembering how to feel like yourself again. Not the surface self, the true one, the one that was never born and will never die. Your DNA holds this truth. It was never just biology.